Good afternoon. I'm Dan Garodnick, Chair of the City Planning Commission and Director of the Department of City Planning. Welcome to today's review session of the City Planning Commission. We're joined today by Vice Chair Knuckles, Commissioners Benjamin, Cerullo, Dweck, Gold, Goodrich, Kermani, Osorio, and Rampersad. Welcome to all of you. And before we get to today's agenda, I just want to go over some news related to the Department of City Planning. To start, I want to thank the City Planning team, our agency partners, and the City Council for their thoughtful engagement with the Jamaica Neighborhood Plan at the hearing at the City Council last week. I also wanted to encourage everyone to read the op-ed in last week's Daily News by the Reverend Patrick O'Connor, who is the lead pastor of the First Presbyterian Church, which talks about how that plan foresees a Jamaica where someone can live in an affordable apartment, seniors can age in place, and New Yorkers of all incomes can feel secure. It's a powerful piece about the need to generate more housing, and that includes, of course, income-restricted affordable housing to help people stay in the neighborhood they love. Moving to our agenda for today, we've got a lot of ground to cover. We've got some new proposals scheduled to begin public review this afternoon, starting with an important infrastructure project by the Department of Environmental Protection, the Newtown Creek Combined Sewer Overflow Tunnel. Working along with the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, DEP, is looking to acquire nearly 100 sites throughout western Queens and northern Brooklyn to facilitate the construction of a 3-mile-long tunnel, which would have a 50 million gallon storage capacity. This tunnel would intercept the combined sewer overflow from 4 major outfalls during a storm event, greatly reducing flooding in neighborhoods around Newtown Creek like Long Island City, Maspeth, Blissville, Greenpoint, and East Williamsburg. Next up, the Commission will hear details on a new building for 1417 Avenue U in Homecrest, Brooklyn. This mixed-use project would include over 75 new homes, of which around 20 would be income-restricted and affordable, as well as ground floor retail. The site is located 1 block from the Q train at the Avenue U station and Mellet Playground. Staying in Brooklyn, we're going to look at a proposed commercial and industrial development at 20 Barry Street in Williamsburg. Located near McCarran Park, the building would create over 700 new jobs and include nearly 10,000 square feet of new publicly accessible open space. From there, we'll move to 1727 Amsterdam Avenue in Manhattan for a proposal by the City Department of Housing, Preservation, and Development to redevelop a city-owned building into a mixed-use project with 200 income-restricted affordable homes. Of those, around 120 would be set aside as supportive housing, and more than 20 would be dedicated as affordable senior housing. The building would also include a community facility to provide social services for the supportive and senior unit residents. Tenants would have easy access to the 145th Street stations for the 1 as well as the A, B, C, and D trains. The building would also be close to Jackie Robinson and Riverbank State Parks. Heading to Astoria, Queens, we'll review a proposed demapping of an unbuilt portion of 32nd Street between 21st Avenue and Ditmars Boulevard. The change would help facilitate the continued operation of an outdoor play area for the students at Astoria Lutheran School. The Commission will next learn about the Creedmoor mixed-use project. It's a general project plan located at 7925 Winchester Boulevard in Belrose, Queens. Led by the New York State Empire State Development, this ambitious proposal looks to revamp the campus of the Creedmoor Psychiatric Center with new homes, community facilities, local retail, parking, a new school, and 12 acres of passive and active open space for this community. The plan calls for the creation of over 2,000 new homes, of which more than half would be affordable home ownership opportunities. The rest of the units would be income-restricted rentals, including those dedicated to supportive and senior housing. Next, to Midtown Manhattan for a proposal by Le Grand Boucherie to facilitate private cafe use within a part of the through-block Galleria Pops that is located at 1325 Avenue of the Americas. And at 242 Siegel Street in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, we're going to look at an application to allow the construction of a new film production facility. This project is the first to pursue the new CPC authorization for bulk modifications that was created through City of Yes for economic opportunity to help encourage these very types of facilities. Love seeing it in action. We'll also review City Council mods to 515 7th Avenue in Midtown and 1946 East 7th Street in Homecrest, Brooklyn. The former is exploring two potential scenarios, as you'll recall. One is an office tower. The other is a mix of office and hotel. In both cases, the project would include 5,400 square feet of pedestrian space with a cafe, seating, artwork. The latter is a 100% permanently income-restricted building with 53 homes for low-income seniors, community facility space, and outdoor recreational space. It's also the first proposal to enter public review that used the Green Fast Track, which is a streamlined environmental review process for small and medium-sized climate-friendly housing projects. And ahead of this Wednesday's vote, we're also going to look at 870 to 888 Atlantic Avenue's application for a height waiver to legalize a 19th story in their building. To address concerns we heard from the Commission, the Department of City Planning has recommended including language in the restrictive declaration tied to the action certifying the building under the FRESH program, which would require a signed lease with the operator of the fresh food store before the issuance of a temporary certificate of occupancy for the 19th story. And before the building can receive a final certificate of occupancy for that 19th floor, the fresh food store would need to be in full operation. This requirement will help make sure the community gets the much-needed facility, much-needed health food options that it deserves. So there it is. A lot to do today. Madam Secretary, over to you. Let's get started. Commissioner Benjamin.
I didn't hear you say, aren't we doing the AIM Up FUCA?
We are.
That is for Wednesday, yes.
We're doing it Wednesday. But I didn't promo it.
No.
There was no promo of the AIM Up follow-up action.
Good catch.
We love it just the same, but it did not get promo today. Yeah, exactly.
We'll promote that on
There may be others that also did not get promoted, but you know, we had such a long agenda, I figured I would perhaps spare you all of the items. Okay, with that, let's get to it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, and welcome to the City Planning Commission Review Session for Monday, September 15th, 2025. The time is 1:09 p.m., and a quorum is present. The first item on our agenda is a certification of site selections and acquisitions in Queens Community Districts 2 and 5 and Brooklyn Community District 1. Our presenter is Derek Jasmine.
Hi, Derek.
Hey, good afternoon. Okay, this is the DEP Newtown Creek CSO Tunnel. The applicant, Department of Environmental Protection, DEP, along with Department of Citywide Administrative Services, DCAS, is pursuing site selection and acquisition actions on 99 properties across 3 community districts in 2 boroughs, Queens 2, Queens 5, and Brooklyn 1, to facilitate the construction of a new combined sewage outflow, CSO, subterranean tunnel connecting existing outfalls along the Newtown Creek watershed within the Newtown Creek wastewater treatment facility situated in Greenpoint. This project will commit $2.1 billion to the construction of a major infrastructure project that would improve the health and water quality, as well as reduce stormwater flooding impacts in and around Newtown Creek. Newtown Creek is an approximately 3.5-mile-long creek along the Brooklyn and Queens border, and the watershed comprises approximately 6,800 total acres. The urbanization of the surrounding drainage area with natural areas replaced by buildings and pavement over time resulted in an estimated 5-fold increase in impervious surfaces, as well as the loss of natural stormwater drainage, resulting in a 2-fold increase in the annual runoff volume into Newtown Creek. And Newtown Creek's limited circulation and exchange with the East River allowed pollutants to build up, resulting in a significant deterioration of water quality. This map highlights the 2 drainage areas that discharge into the Newtown Creek wastewater recovery facility. The Newtown Creek drainage area, shaded in orange, and the Bowery Bay drainage area, shaded in yellowish green, and the hatch marking covers the portion of both drainage areas that contribute CSO discharge into the creek. In 2005, the City of New York and New York State Department of Environmental Conservation entered into an order and consent to address CSOs within New York City, and over the past 20 years, DEP has implemented several specific projects to improve water quality in Newtown Creek. As part of the CSO order, DEP agreed to develop 10 water body-specific long-term control plans, LTCPs, to reduce the CSOs and improve water quality. Newtown Creek was identified in the CSO order as one of the water bodies in the city to appropriate controls necessary to reduce the volume and frequency of overflow events. The Newtown Creek LTCP was prepared by DEP and submitted to the Department of Environmental Conservation in 2017, and the plan was approved by New York State in 2018. The project area is located in a heavy industrial area crossing three industrial business zones, Long Island City, Maspeth, as well as North Brooklyn, Greenpoint, Williamsburg. And the primary underlying zoning for this project area is manufacturing, consisting mainly of M31 and M32. Currently, approximately 60% of New York City has a combined sewer system. In areas with combined sewers, a single pipe carries stormwater runoff and sanitary sewage from buildings, such as sinks and toilets, which is sent to a wastewater treatment plant. During heavy rain events, when the plant's capacity has been exceeded, the extra combined stormwater runoff and untreated sanitary sewage are discharged directly into our local waterways through combined sewer outfalls. The proposal is for a 3-mile-long tunnel that is 26 feet wide and will be between 80 and 130 feet underground. It intercepts water from 4 outfalls along Newtown Creek to store the water in the tunnel underground. Rather than a tank like in Gowanus, it will be one large interconnected tunnel, and the tunnel will prevent CSO water from entering Newtown Creek. And once the system can treat it, the water will be pumped to the wastewater treatment facility located in Greenpoint to be treated and used again. And here is a diagram of the proposed facility with the outfall structures positioned along 4 tributaries that feed into Newtown Creek. The existing sewage infrastructure in this diagram is highlighted in a light green color. Drop shafts will connect these to the newly built subterranean tunnel, which then connects to the wastewater treatment facility, the Newtown Creek WRRF. So there are 99 total properties slated for ULURP approval. This might seem like a large number for site selection and acquisition, and it is, but the majority, 81 of those sites, are positioned for underground for permanent easements for the tunnel. Those subterranean components would be between 80 and 130 feet below the surface. 4 of these sites would require full fee simple acquisition, in which ownership would be transferred to the city following approval in order to build out the drop shafts connected to each outfall. 1 requires both permanent subterranean and temporary surface easements in order to build the connection between surface and subterranean infrastructure. And 3 would require only temporary surface easements for construction and staging purposes. And 9 of these sites are city-owned and only require site selection under the PS action. So this here is a view of where the construction of the tunnel will begin at the DEP wastewater treatment facility located in the background of this picture. A machine would enter the ground near the wastewater treatment facility and push the debris out where it will likely be barged out of the city at the transfer station next to the treatment facility. And here is a view where the proposed BB26 diversion facility would be constructed, connecting to the Dutch Kills outfall, and this is located within the Blissville area of Long Island City, Queens. This view is of the site where the proposed NCO 77 drop shaft would be constructed, which would connect to the Maspeth Creek outfall located in Maspeth, Queens. And this is a view of the site where the proposed NCB 83 drop shaft will be constructed, which would connect to the East Branch outfall. This is located in East Williamsburg, Brooklyn. And this view is of the site where the proposed NCB 15 drop shaft will be constructed, connecting to the English Creek outfall, also located in East Williamsburg, Brooklyn. There is a racial equity report aligned with this project. Starting from Brooklyn, a viewpoint from Brooklyn CB1, approximately 47% of employees in Greenpoint Williamsburg worked in the office sector, much higher than the rest of the borough or city. Employment in the institutional, industrial, and local services sectors is lower within Greenpoint Williamsburg than that of Brooklyn or the rest of the city. In Queens Board 2, approximately 33% of employees in Sunnyside, Woodside work in the office sector, which is slightly higher than Queens or the rest of the city. At 29%, the local services sector also has a higher employment rate than Queens or the rest of the city. And this area has less employment in institutional and industrial sectors than the rest of Queens. In Queens District 5, approximately 26% of employees work in the industrial sector, higher than Queens or the rest of the city, and employment in the local services sector is similar to the rest of the borough and city, with employment in office and industrial and institutional sectors lower than the rest of the city. Of the city's workforce employed in utilities, approximately 38.8% have a bachelor's degree or higher, and the demographics of this sector consist of 35% white non-Hispanic, 28% are Hispanic, 27% are Black non-Hispanic, and 10% are Asian non-Hispanic. Of the New York City workforce employed in administration of industry, approximately 62.8% have a bachelor's degree or higher, and the demographics of this sector consist of 47% white non-Hispanic, 15% Hispanic, 19% are Black non-Hispanic, and 19% are Asian non-Hispanic. There is an environmental impact statement attached to this project as well, being conducted by Department of Environmental Protection, the DEP is the lead agency of this environmental impact statement, the seeker number being 24 DEP 053Y. A notice of completion of a draft DEIS was issued on September 5th, 2025. The DEIS identified significant adverse impacts with respect to construction related to transportation and noise, and no other significant adverse impacts were identified. Mitigation measures are identified in this impact statement and will be further explored in the final impact statement. So in summary, DEP and DCAS are pursuing site selection and acquisition actions on 99 properties across 3 community districts and 2 boroughs, Queens 2, Queens 5, and Brooklyn 1, to facilitate the construction of a new 3-mile combined sewage outflow subterranean tunnel that will improve health and water quality while reducing flooding impacts in the surrounding area. And that concludes my presentation. I'm ready for questions.
That's great. Thank you. I just want to take a step back and make sure that we all have an understanding about what we're talking about here and why it matters. There's a lot of sites to be selected and acquisition authority that's being sought. The drop shafts and the tunnel below ground. Can you tell us a little bit more about the specific purpose of the drop shafts and also what the new tunnel below ground is actually going to do, how it's going to keep the effects of the combined sewer overflow from continuing in the neighborhoods where it is sited?
Sure. So the tunnel will be newly constructed and will connect to 4 existing sewage outflows that are located along the Newtown Creek watershed. So each of those outflows will initially have a diversion chamber, which will pull any additional outflow over the initial capacity to pull it towards the new subterranean tunnel. The drop shaft would pull the water down, connecting from the surface, from being closer to the surface down deeper into the storage tunnel. And the tunnel itself will have serve a storage purpose in which during a stormwater event, it will collect the excess stormwater. Following the completion of the rainwater event, that water will then be pumped back up from the storage tunnel and into the wastewater treatment facility for treatment.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me go to Vice Chair Knuckles.
Thank you, Chair. The four sites, this is slide, I forgot what it is on. Anyway, the slide that talks about the proposed land use actions, and it says 4 require full fee simple acquisition as opposed to easements. What is contemplated on those sites?
So this is in reference to the 4
Right.
Full fee simple acquisition.
Yes.
In this case, the city is pursuing full acquisition of those sites, so that the ownership would be transferred to the city following the acquisition actions, and the focus on these sites is to build out new facilities that would connect from existing sewage infrastructure and to connect to the newly proposed subterranean infrastructure.
So these would be above ground facilities that have to be built there. I'm just trying to see what distinguishes these 4 sites and the requirement of a full fee simple acquisition as opposed to the easements that.
Yeah. That's a great question.
I can step in. I think DEP will be here for the hearing to really help to spell out the engineering specifics around all this. But with the 4 sites, there's varying degrees. The diversion chamber, as we know it, is actually subterranean, but there are other elements that may be above ground. And then the TDPS, basically what was the orange shading in that previous diagram, would be an above ground structure. Yeah, which is the portion of the project that's pumping that 5 million gallon storage water in that 5 million gallon storage tunnel, and then into the wastewater treatment facility. So it seems there would be varying degrees of subterranean and surface construction on those 4 sites.
Okay, and I can ask DEP about more detail on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Commissioner Benjamin?
Hi, thank you very much for the presentation. I have a number of questions, but they're probably more suited for DEP, so if you could let them know. My first question was, how many overflow events per year do each of these outfalls experience? On average, in an average typical year, there's 30 to 58, and DEP expects that as a result of this project, that could be reduced to 7 to 8 outfall events in 1 year. And the outfalls have overflow events, but does the Newtown Creek Treatment Facility exceed its design capacity of 310 MGD? That's a good question. We can definitely flag that for DEP to clarify. Okay. At the hearing. I'll also note that with this level of reduction, they're expecting a 70% reduction in total CSO discharge volume in an average year. Right, but if we don't know how many overflow events there are at both the treatment facility and at the outfalls, I understand from the package that 90% of the overflows are within these 4 outfalls. But I'd like to understand what impact those outflows have on Newtown Creek itself, so we can make a judgment whether that's really where the direction to go in. Okay. I also am concerned because at the West Side facility where we have deep holding tanks, there has been historically a terrible odor problem. And in the EIS, it does acknowledge that CSOs, by their nature, can be odoriferous. In the EIS, they're talking about a series of actions or mitigations that will help to limit any potential odor, although odor is to be expected when the sewage itself, no matter how much it is 98% water, but in time, the solids will in fact start to decompose, and that will lead to methane, which is usually what people smell. So I'd like a better idea from them within the tunnel of how they're going to, they say they have some ventilation shafts, although that's not in any of the diagrams, where and how the ventilation shafts will operate and whether the ventilation shafts will require pumping to get the methane. And so I'd like to know where they are, particularly in relation to any residential structures or the nature walk. Also, with respect to the tunnel, since the solids settle, when there is an overflow event and the tunnel is filled with the 50 MGDs or whatever it may be, how are they going to move the solids that have settled, particularly once the water is gone, which is relatively easy and light? How are they going to clean the solids from the bottom of the diversion tunnel? And lastly, I'm curious why they put Bowery Bay 26 on this diversion, since it's the only one of these outfalls that's not going to Newtown Creek. It's going to Bowery Bay. So I was curious why it's in this.
Yeah, that's a great question. My understanding here is that this new structure and facility is to serve the drainage and watershed for the Newtown Creek area, which does cross over into the CSO, which does cross over into what is the Bowery Bay CSO management area. So in this case, the water actually does flow into the Newtown Creek basin, despite being served by the Bowery Bay CSO management under DEP. So that's where the BB under BB 26 on that side of Newtown Creek falls within the Bowery Bay CSO management area.
Right, but that means that currently that flow in a dry weather event would not be going to Newtown Creek. Am I correct? It would be going to Bowery Bay. So it's not accounted for in the dry weather or wet weather projections that DEP had in these documents because it wouldn't have gone there. So the question is, what is the flow that they anticipate from Bowery Bay 26?
Sure. I can bring this question back to the applicant.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Rampersad, Commissioner Osorio.
Thank you for the presentation. Just had two quick questions. With regards to property acquisition, in the event that they're not able to acquire some of these properties, is there a backup plan, or do they anticipate any issues with closing out the remaining properties that they need?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do know that the applicant has sent out a notice to all property owners in the area to alert them of their proposed actions, but I think the applicant can speak more to any more on the process and response.
And just getting back, you mentioned 2017 DEP approved it, and then 2018 they had state approval. So from 2018 to now, what has been, I guess, what's been going on since then? I'm just trying to find out how come it's taking so long to come to us now. I'm just curious.
Yeah. That's a great question. I think the applicant can speak to more of that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Osorio.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the presentation. When this comes back, I'm wondering if you can please ask DEP whether they can share any data regarding the streets that have been or that were mostly affected during Sandy. After the storm, I visited some of the streets along the creek, and I noticed that when the EPA came to do water quality testing, there wasn't any baseline data on what to expect in terms of the general contaminants that would be present on the street. Therefore, it was really hard to understand the extent to which the storm had exceeded or had exacerbated the load of, in this case, we're talking about mostly bacteria, but I'm interested in chemicals. So the question is whether we can see any information in terms of what would be the most critical streets based on whether they were impacted after Sandy. And two, will the city or does the city keep any records on the presence of bacteria and pollutants on the public right-of-way, on the actual sidewalks, streets, as a matter of, on a regular basis? Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you for that question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. This item is certified. We'll move on to the next one. Thank you.
Thank you.
The second item on our agenda is a certification of a zoning map and zoning text amendments and a modification to a previously approved restrictive declaration in Brooklyn Community District 15. Our presenter is Griffin Mills. I'll just note Commissioner Ramprashad is recused.
Thank you. Welcome, Griffin. Hello.
Good afternoon. Great. Good afternoon. This is a certification presentation for 1417 Avenue U rezoning. This is a private application from 1417 Avenue U Holding LLC requesting a zoning map amendment from an R5 C13 to R5 and R7A C24, a zoning text amendment to Appendix S to establish a mandatory inclusionary housing MIH area with options 1 and 2, and a cancellation of a previous restrictive declaration. These actions would facilitate a 7-story, 83,100 square foot mixed-use building with 76 dwelling units, 19 to 23 of which would be income restricted under MIH, and 11,400 square feet of ground floor commercial. This project is located at 1417 Avenue U in the Homecrest neighborhood of Brooklyn in Community District 15. This is an aerial view looking northwest at the rezoning area, which is highlighted in blue. The project area is well served by transit, with the Q train located 1 block east. The B3 and B68 bus lines have stops less than a 5-minute walk from the project area. The project area fronts on Avenue U, which is an 80-foot wide commercial corridor, and is surrounded by East 14th Street, which is 60 feet wide to the west, and East 15th Street, which is also 60 feet wide to the east. As illustrated here, the land uses in the area surrounding the project consist of a mix of 1- and 2-family residential and multifamily buildings, ranging in height from 2 to 4 stories, along with mixed commercial and residential buildings along the Avenue U corridor. Mellon Playground is a nearby 1-acre neighborhood park located south of the project area. The project area is entirely surrounded by R5 zoning with C13 commercial overlays along Avenue U. This is a view looking north at the proposed development from Avenue U. The lot is currently empty, highlighted in orange. The rezoning area is the entire block front, highlighted in blue. This is a view looking north on East 15th Street with proposed development on the left. This is a view looking east towards East 15th Street on Avenue U. You can see the proposed development is on the right and the elevated Q train station in the distance. This is a view looking south on East 15th Street towards Avenue U with the proposed development on the right. This is a view looking west on Avenue U with the proposed development on the right. The proposed development is a 7-story mixed-use building with 71,800 square feet of residential uses and 11,300 square feet of ground floor commercial. The development includes 76 dwelling units, 19 to 23 of which will be permanently income restricted, subject to MIH. The building will rise to a height of 75 feet and include 18 off-street parking spots in the cellar. To facilitate the proposed development, the applicant seeks a zoning map amendment from an R5C13 to R5 and R7A C24, a zoning text amendment to Appendix F to establish a mandatory inclusionary housing, MIH area with options 1 and 2, and a cancellation of a previous restrictive declaration. The zoning map amendment seeks to change an existing R5C13 zoning district to R7A C24. By reducing the depth of the existing commercial overlay on the western half of the rezoning area from 145 feet to 100 feet, 3 tax lots would be zoned from R5C13 to R5. Reducing this commercial overlay on the western half of the block front will prevent future commercial uses and maintain the residential character on East 14th Street. R7A C24 districts permit a maximum residential FAR of 5.01. Buildings can rise to a maximum height of 115 feet. The maximum community facility FAR is 4, and the maximum commercial FAR is 2. Outside of the greater transit zone, parking is required for 15% of residential units. The proposed zoning text amendment to Appendix F would map an MIH area with options 1 and 2 for an area coterminous with the rezoning area. Option 1 requires 25% of residential floor area to be income restricted for households on average making 60% area median income or lower. Option 2 requires 30% of the residential floor area to be income restricted for households on averaging making 80% AMI or lower. The applicant is also requesting to terminate a restricted declaration that was recorded against the development site in 1979. When a commercial overlay was mapped here to fill in a gap of commercial overlays along Avenue U, a restricted declaration was put in place to require the development of a drive-through bank at the development site with a specific site plan and signage to ensure the proper flow of traffic leaving the drive-through. The site served as a bank for many years and then a pharmacy and was most recently a retail store where the drive-through is not in use. The termination will remove this requirement in order to facilitate redevelopment of the site. This application requires a racial equity report, which helps put the proposal into context with neighborhood-level socioeconomic data. The annual median household income for the project area is $68,601, which is more than the annual median household income in Brooklyn, but less than New York City. 19 to 23 units will be income restricted for families with incomes averaging 40 to 80% AMI. As per the racial equity report, the population of Sheepshead Bay, Garrison Beach, and Homecrest is 63% white non-Hispanic, 20% Asian non-Hispanic, 9% Hispanic Latino, and 4% Black non-Hispanic. The white non-Hispanic population is a significantly greater share of the area's population when compared to Brooklyn and New York City. From 2010 to 2020, the area saw a 6% increase in population, which was just below Brooklyn and New York City's increase in population. The area saw significant growth in both the Black non-Hispanic and Hispanic Latino population, which outpaced both Brooklyn and citywide trends. The Asian non-Hispanic population growth was similar to Brooklyn and New York City's average, and the white non-Hispanic population decreased. From 2010 to 2023, housing units in Sheepshead Bay, Garrison Beach, and Homecrest increased by 3%, and the population increased by 6%. This is less than Brooklyn and New York City's average. To conclude, this is a private application for zoning map amendment from an R5C13 to R5 and R7A C24, a zoning text amendment to Appendix F to establish a mandatory inclusionary housing, MIH area with options 1 and 2, and a cancellation of a previous restrictive declaration. These actions would facilitate a 7-story mixed-use building, including 83,100 square feet with 76 dwelling units, 19 to 23 of which will be income restricted under MIH, and 11,000 square feet of ground floor commercial. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you. We've got a map amendment text for MIH and the cancellation of a restrictive deck. Question from Commissioner Osorio.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks so much for the presentation. You know, in general, I would love to see a little bit more information on the sustainability measures proposed when this comes back. But also just a quick question. I mean, it's clear that this is outside of the preliminary 100-year floodplain and the 500-year floodplain, but it's very close. In fact, just across the street from the projected 2020 100-year floodplain. And so I'm wondering if this has been discussed or if it's possible to anticipate a little bit how the building would withstand, given the fact that it's not required to incorporate some of these measures.
Thanks for the question. I'll speak for the applicant and have them speak on that.
Great, thank you.
Great. We're certified. Thank you very much, Griffin.
Thank you so much.
Let's move on to the next, item 3.
The third item on our agenda is a certification of zoning map and zoning text amendments and a special permit in Brooklyn Community District 1. Our presenters, Lucia Marquez Reagan.
Hello.
Good afternoon. This is an application by Mihata Corporation LLC, Mihata Corporation, rather, for a zoning map amendment to rezone an M11 to an M12 district, a text amendment to expand an existing industrial business incentive area, and a special permit to facilitate the development of a new 10-story, 192,000 square foot commercial and industrial development with 9,690 square feet of publicly accessible open space. The project area is located at 20 Berry Street in the Williamsburg neighborhood of Brooklyn, Community District 1. The project area and development site are coterminous and are highlighted in pink. It consists of 8 applicant-owned lots on Block 2283. Each lot is 5,000 square feet for a total of 40,000 square feet in lot area that'll be treated as a single zoning lot. The site is currently occupied by a 1-story warehouse, except for a 2-story building on Lot 31, which includes accessory office uses. The site contains 8 curb cuts, 2 along North 12th Street to the south, 3 curb cuts along Berry Street to the east, and 3 curb cuts along North 13th Street to the north. The project area is roughly bounded by North 13th Street to the north, Berry Street to the east, and North 12th Street to the south, and Wythe Avenue to the west. The location, it is located to the east of the current and future Bushwick Inlet Park, west of McCarran Park with access to the G train at Nassau Avenue with service between Long Island City and Kensington, and the L train at Bedford Avenue with service between Chelsea and Canarsie. There are 2 ferry stops at India Street and North 7th Street. The B32 bus runs along Wythe Avenue west of the project area with service between Williamsburg and Long Island City. The project area is located between Greenpoint and Williamsburg. The area is largely mapped with M zoning districts. The project area and properties adjacent to McCarran Park are mapped with an M11 zoning district, which allows for a maximum commercial and industrial FAR of 1 and a maximum community facility FAR of 2.4. Blocks west of the project area between McCarran Park and Bushwick Inlet Park are mapped M12 zoning districts, which allow for a maximum commercial and industrial FAR of 2 and a maximum community facility FAR of 4.8. The surrounding area consists primarily of low-scale buildings with a mix of light industrial in purple, office, hotel, and retail, and restaurant uses in red, and residential in yellow to the south. The larger uses include the William Vale Hotel, Wythe Hotel, and Arlo Hotels to the west of the project area. Park and open space is highlighted in green on this map and includes the 35-acre McCarran Park located to the east of the project area, and when complete, Bushwick Inlet Park will stretch from North 9th Street to Key Street with a total of 28 acres to the west of the project area. Community facilities can be seen in blue and also include Automotive High School, which is located to the east of the project area at North 15th Street and Berry Street within the surrounding area. Russian Orthodox Cathedral of the Transfiguration of Our Lord is located east of the development site and south of McCarran Park, and San Domino Mission Catholic Church is located north of the development site and west of McCarran Park. Next, we'll look at site photos. The first 2 images on this slide are at the northern edge of the project area along North 13th Street. The first image is looking at the development site facing southeast, where we can see a warehouse, the warehouse use, and 3 loading berths along North 13th. The second image is facing northwest, where we see the development site and the William Vale Hotel. This image, the images on this slide are on the easternmost edge of the project area, adjacent to McCarran Park. We can see that in the first image, McCarran Park on the left side of the image, we're on the corner of North 13th and Berry Street facing southwest. On the second image, we're facing North 12th Street and Berry Street facing northeast. 2 loading berths are along Berry Street. Continuing to pivot to face the development site, we're still on the corner of North 12th Street and Berry Street. We can see the William Vale Hotel and single-story warehouse development on site. In the second image, we can see down North 12th Street, the southern border of the site. Lastly, we're further down North 12th Street in the first and second images. The first we're facing north and the second we're facing southeast towards McCarran Park. We can see the development site and additional loading berths along North 12th Street. The proposed development is a 10-story, 135-foot tall building containing 80 parking spaces and 2 loading berths accessed via North 13th Street and nearly 10,000 square feet of public open space. The development would contain 192,000 square feet, or 4.8 FAR, 32,000 square feet of required industrial uses, and 160,000 square feet of retail and office uses. The development consists of 2 buildings, connected via a pedestrian walkway above ground and 2 cellar levels below ground. The first building, the main building, highlighted in blue, would rise to a max height of 135 feet and would contain commercial and manufacturing industrial uses, which we'll illustrate later on in the presentation. The second building within the development is a smaller retail pavilion corner building, highlighted in green. It's a 3-story, 48-foot tall building on the corner of Berry and 12th Street, North 12th Street. Quickly, before discussing the land use actions in detail, we wanted to give the CPC background on the Industrial Business Incentive Area and necessary actions. The goal of the Industrial Business Incentive Area, IBIA, is to encourage growth of jobs and job densities, promote a beneficial mix of commercial and industrial uses, and support superior site planning and enhance streetscapes in the IBZ. This is achieved by floor area incentive to promote industrial uses in an M12 area in Greenpoint, Williamsburg. A special permit unlocks up to 2 FAR of incentive uses when 0.8 FAR of required industrial uses are provided, for a total of 4.8 FAR. In addition, the special permit has streetscape and design requirements, provides a more flexible building envelope for the creation of more loft-like buildings, and reduces parking requirements. In order to pursue the IBIA special permit, the application must first be within an M district permitted in Greenpoint, Williamsburg, that is an M12 district, establish an IBIA area through a text amendment to 74948, and then seek the special permit for waivers to increase floor area for specific uses, utilize the IBIA envelope, and reduce parking and loading. This application is seeking all 3 actions: a zoning map amendment from an M11 to an M12, text amendment to establish a new IBIA area, and the special permit to seek waivers. The map amendment is again to rezone from an M11 to an M12 area. The site is currently located in an M11 zoning district, which permits 1 FAR community and commercial and manufacturing uses, and 2.4 FAR for select community facility uses. And an M12 district permits 2 FAR commercial manufacturing and 4.8 for community facility uses. The zoning text amendment is to add the project area in pink to the map within section 74948, map 1 of Industrial Business Incentive Area maps. There's a series of findings associated with the waivers granted for the special permit. These findings include findings related to a mix of uses, site planning and bulk distribution, harmonious urban design, and if open space is provided, requirements for open space, and findings related to the reduction of parking and loading on site. I'll discuss these findings as we go through the following waivers. The special permit pursuant to 74943 for permitted floor area increase, to increase the available FAR of certain commercial and industrial uses above the underlying 2 FAR for permitted uses, a project must provide up to 0.8 FAR of required industrial uses, a set of light industrial and manufacturing uses that can easily co-locate with commercial uses, to unlock an additional 2 FAR for incentive uses, which are uses permitted in M12 districts, with the exception of hotel, retail, food and beverage, and entertainment. The applicant is proposing a 4.8 FAR building and will provide the 0.8 FAR of required industrial uses, as well as 2 FAR of incentive uses, as seen in this image. The following slide is a breakdown of those uses within the building. Purple is permitted FAR, blue is required industrial uses, and yellow is incentive uses, also known as other commercial uses. The cellar and ground floor would contain permitted uses. Second floor would contain permitted uses within the retail pavilion and a portion of the main building, and the required industrial uses would be provided on the second and third floor of the main building with access to loading berths and freight elevators within the main building off North 13th Street. As a condition of the special permit, the underlying building envelope would no longer apply. Instead of the sky exposure plane, a contextual envelope encouraging a loft-like building is required. The maximum base height would be 75 feet, and the building could rise up to a maximum height of 110 feet after a 10 to 15-foot setback. In addition, when adequate open space is provided, then the envelope may reach a total height of 135 feet. The proposed development adheres to this envelope. The applicant is providing a total of 9,690 square feet of open space, 4,800 of which square feet of which would be a plaza, and required PAA to achieve the height increase. In addition, the applicant is providing an additional 48,000 square feet of open space in blue.
4,800?
Yes, thank you. This open space permits the applicant to an additional 15 feet of height in the envelope for a total of 135 feet, which the applicant is again proposing. The open space meets requirements to achieve the additional height by consisting of 12% of the zoning lot, 12% or more of the lot area, and being at least 2,000 square feet in area. In conjunction with the proposed publicly accessible open space, the applicant seeks to waive some requirements to the underlying public plaza regulations. First, the applicant seeks to modify 37.713 to allow for the publicly accessible open space to be located across from McCarran Park, zoning section 37.714B, to permit a major portion of the open space to front of an east-facing street, even though the zoning lot is more than 40 feet on the southern-facing street, and 37.76B to permit the entrance of a principal use of the building to occupy less than 20 feet of the frontage of the public plaza. These waivers would permit the publicly accessible open space to be across from McCarran Park, and the applicant believes that this will improve pedestrian circulation. And lastly, the applicant proposes to waive 648 parking spaces pursuant to the special permit to provide 80 spaces in the subcellar. In addition, underlying requirements for an M12 requires 8 loading berths. The applicant proposes to waive 6 of them and is providing 2 loading berths for the development along North 13th Street. This application requires a racial equity report on housing and opportunity. Figure 1, we can see the population of Greenpoint, Williamsburg, NTA is predominantly white and Hispanic Latino, with the percentage of white residents at 62%, which exceeds both the borough at 35% and the city at 31%, and a Hispanic Latino population at 21%, which is between the borough and citywide percentages. Figure 2, percent change in race and ethnicity between 2010 and 2020. In Greenpoint, Williamsburg is in dark blue. The largest percentage is seen in the Asian population, which has experienced a growth of 55% compared to an increase of 43% borough-wide and 34% citywide. The Black, non-Hispanic, and white populations have also seen increases in comparison with the borough and citywide percentages. Figure 6, labor force participation 2017 to 2021. in Greenpoint Williamsburg is in dark blue. An estimated 82% in Greenpoint Williamsburg were employed or seeking work. This is a higher percentage than that of Brooklyn at 74% and citywide at 73%. Figure 8, share of employed residents by business sector. In 2017 to 2021, an estimated 47% of employed people in Greenpoint Williamsburg worked in the office sector, compared to 31% borough-wide and citywide. Other sectors, such as institutional, industrial, and local service sectors, were lower than the percentage citywide, 19% in the institutional sector, 12% in the industrial sector, and 22% local services, compared to 28%, 17%, and 23 to 24% borough and citywide, respectively. In summary, this is an application for a zoning map amendment, zoning text amendment, and zoning special permit for a new 10-story, 135-foot tall building containing 192,000 square feet and 80 parking spaces, 2 loading berths, and nearly 10,000 square feet of publicly accessible open space at 20 Berry Street. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, so just a quick summary from me. On the zoning map, the applicant needs to get to the M12 to allow the IBIA because the FAR unlocked is not possible in an M11, correct?
Correct.
Zoning text to map it as an IBIA.
Correct.
Then the IBIA, the special permit itself.
Yes.
Which allows for the floor area increase, the bonus for industrial, changes in the envelope, the height, the limit on providing open space across from a park, parking, and loading.
Yes.
Okay. Just one on the open space across from the park. Obviously, that was a principle that was put in place here, presumably to incentivize the open space on the other side of what block would have been applicable to not have it abutting the park. But here they are proposing to double the amount of open space from 4,800 square feet to 9,600 square feet. Is that correct?
Correct.
And would there have been alternatives as to where they could have located the open space here? Tell us a little bit about that if you can.
In terms of if they could locate it elsewhere or configure it elsewhere on their site, I'll have the applicant team discuss that. But in terms of the waiver itself, this is a waiver for, it has to be 175 feet of between a public park, and the site is directly across the street from a public park. So I think it's my understanding, at least, that regardless of where they put it on the lot, they would have to seek the waiver. But
I see.
I'll have the applicant
Okay.
confirm.
Well, we'll talk to them about that. So even if they put it on the other side of the block, because the block itself is within 175 feet of McCarran Park, it may have been applicable, but we'll confirm.
Yes.
Okay, I gotcha. Okay, let me see if there are other questions for you. Commissioner Osorio, Commissioner Kermani.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks so much for the presentation, and thanks so much for the materials. I specifically really appreciated the breakdown of the other IBIA permits that have been granted in the area. The quick follow-up question that I have on that is, so we know the amount of the square footage that was approved under each of these permits then, but I'm wondering if we have any data on the amount of companies or the amount of jobs, light industrial jobs that have been located there. I am asking just to get a little bit of a sense of how is basically the permit working overall in terms of, allowing this type of development, but at the same time supporting and retaining industrial jobs. And so if you can provide that would be greatly appreciated. The other question that I had was, so like the previous proposal, this also is, and I appreciate the documentation that you provided, this is located in the X zone, 500-year floodplain, not 100-year floodplain, therefore not required to any of Appendix G items. But again, this is across the street from significant projected flooding. And so tell me a little bit, whether that has been discussed and to what extent we can. I think that in this case we should, given the proximity to the waterfront and the Superstorm Sandy impacts. I mean, we already know that this area is subject to that. So So that will be the second question. And, while we're asking about climate change, if you can also ask the applicant to deepen a little bit the opportunities here for sustainability measures, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Just quickly to address your first question, I will happy to follow up with the detail. Just want to also caveat that some of these projects are under construction right now, so we don't actually have the data for them, but just happy to follow up on both of those points.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Kermode.
Thank you. Thanks so much for the presentation. I went to look at the site just to see the bigness, and I couldn't tell, and I can't remember from the materials. Are there any existing, even not legal tenants? Is there anybody working using these as studios, or is there any occupancy?
My understanding is that there is a warehousing business, but I don't have the details on how many people work there or not, but I'm sure the applicant can provide more detail.
I'll ask. Thanks.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Mann?
Yeah, just a quick question about the tenancy. Do we know if there's an office tenant identified for the building?
Not currently, no. But I think the applicant is better.
Yeah, and I guess
I'll answer that.
The applicant as well, but and no industrial tenants at this point that have been identified yet.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. This item is now certified. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
The fourth item on our agenda is a certification of a UDOT designation, project approval, and disposition of city-owned property in Manhattan Community District 9. Our presenter is Audrey Walks.
All right, Audrey, hello. Good afternoon.
Your mic's not on.
Is this better?
Yes.
Great. This is a certification presentation for 1727 Amsterdam Avenue, Hilltop Apartments. The Department of Housing Preservation and Development seeks the designation of an urban development action area, approval of an urban development action area project, and disposition of a city-owned lot located at 1727 Amsterdam Avenue in Hamilton Heights, Manhattan Community District 9. Approval of the actions would facilitate the development of a 9-story as-of-right mixed-use building with 200 dwelling units, including senior, supportive, and low-income apartments, plus 21,000 square feet of community facility space. The surrounding area is generally characterized by low to mid-rise multifamily buildings, public institutions, community facilities, and a mix of ground floor commercial uses along major corridors, such as Amsterdam Avenue and West 145th Street, where the development site is located. As seen in the inset map, the development site sits at the intersection of an R6A, R7A, and R7D zoning districts, the latter of which is overlaid with an inclusionary housing area. And it is also mapped with the C14 district, partially mapped over the development site along Amsterdam Avenue. Area zoning largely consists of contextual districts, including those I just mentioned. These were mapped with the 2012 West Harlem rezoning, which sought to support contextual development, reinforce existing residential character, promote affordable housing, and foster commercial vitality along key corridors such as West 145th Street, Amsterdam Avenue, and Broadway. In terms of contextual character, the area south and east of the development site is mapped with 3 historic districts. These were mapped over a 25-year period from the mid-1970s until the early 2000s and sought to preserve historic row houses and apartment buildings representative of the neighborhood's small-scale residential character. Moving on to current conditions, here is a view of the development site looking northeast and east from Amsterdam Avenue.
And here's a view looking southwest from West 146th Street and Amsterdam Avenue, as well as west from West 146th Street. Finally, here's a view looking north from 145th Street and a view looking northeast from the same street. Today, the development site is occupied by a 4-story, 59,000 square foot building with a 1.92 FAR. It is under DCAS jurisdiction and is managed by New York City Health and Hospitals. Currently, the development is home to the Emma L. Bowen Community Service Center, a nonprofit that provides mental health, addiction treatment, and supportive services. And its other community facility tenant is the Heritage Health Center, which provides wraparound health care to neighborhood residents. And this building you see, the existing building, would be demolished to build the proposed development. To facilitate the proposed development, HPD proposes the following actions: designation of an urban development action area, approval of an urban development action area project, and disposition of city-owned property. The development site would then be conveyed to a sponsor to be selected by HPD, and the proposed development is therefore eligible to be an urban development action area project pursuant to Article 16 of the General Municipal Law. The proposed development would feature 119 supportive housing units, 59 income restricted units, 22 senior units, and 1 superintendent's unit for a total of 200 housing units. There would also be 21,000 square feet of community facility space devoted to social services for those supportive and senior units. The current tenant, Emma L. Bowen Community Service Center, would be welcomed back to the building to provide these services. The proposed project would be constructed as of right and pursuant to existing zoning. The approximately 4.63 FAR is below maximum potential 4.81 FAR, which is calculated based on the site's split lot status. It will feature a 5-floor wing along West 145th Street and a 9-floor wing along Amsterdam Avenue. Pursuant to Local Law 78, this application requires a racial equity report on housing and opportunity because it would increase the permitted residential floor area by at least 50,000 square feet. The applicant states the proposal would include around 200 homes, almost all of which are income restricted, senior or supportive housing in a location that has a median income of around $59,000 a year. You'll notice that per the displacement risk map, households in this area are at a higher risk of displacement. Based on the 2020 census, 10% of the population identified as Asian non-Hispanic, roughly 3 to 6% lower than the rest of the borough and the city, respectively. 20% of area residents identified as Black non-Hispanic, which is equivalent to the city average, but 8% higher than the borough as a whole. A plurality of residents, 37%, identify as Hispanic or Latino, compared to 24% in the borough and 28% in the city. Finally, 28% of residents identified as white non-Hispanic, compared to almost half in Manhattan and 31% citywide. Between 2010 and 2020, the Asian non-Hispanic population in the area increased at the highest rate to 43%, compared to 24% and 34% increases in Manhattan and the city, respectively. The Black non-Hispanic population decreased by 14%, compared to 3% and 5% decreases for the borough and city, respectively. The Hispanic and Latino population decreased 10% in the area, compared to no change in the borough and a decline of 5% citywide. Meanwhile, the white non-Hispanic population in the area increased by 8%, compared to a 4% increase in Manhattan and no change citywide. While there was no population change in the area from 2010 to 2024, the number of housing units increased by 5%, while the borough and city increased housing units by 9% and 10%, and the population increased by 10% and 8%, respectively. In summary, HPD seeks an Urban Development Action Area designation, Urban Development Action Area project approval, and disposition of city-owned property. Approval of the proposed actions would facilitate the development of a 9-story, 143,000 square foot as-of-right mixed-use building with 200 units, including senior, supportive, and low-income units, plus community facility space. Thank you, and happy to take your questions.
Thank you. We're going to start with Commissioner Benjamin.
Yeah, one quick question. Where is the Emma Bowen and the Heritage Health Center going?
They are going on the ground floor. Let me double check this. Ground floor, cellar, and second floor, I believe. Cellar, first and second floor.
Because they currently have 59,000 square feet, and the new community facility is only 21,000 square feet. So are they going to reduce services, or how is that going to work? Or is the basement that you mentioned not really going to be a basement? Is it going to be used for seeing clients?
Mm-hmm. So the applicant has stated that the center will include a therapeutic preschool, play and speech therapy programs, a clubhouse, community food pantry, clinical support spaces, and spaces for administrative and board offices. And they will be able, HPD will be able to speak more, I believe, during their presentation to the distribution and activities of the center.
Okay, if you could tell them, I'd really like to understand, since it's less than half of the space they currently have, how that's going to operate and how they're going to, or if they're going to maintain the same level of services, or if the services will be lessened.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Okay, we're certified. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go to item 5, please.
Okay. The fifth item on our agenda is a certification of a city map amendment in Queens Community District 1. Presenting for the first time to the Commission is Juanita Halim.
All right, welcome. Glad you're here.
Hello. Good afternoon, Chair Grading and Commissioners. Today I'll be presenting the application 32nd Street demapping. So this is an application submitted by Grace Evangelical Church of Long Island City. The project site is located in the Ditmar-Stanway neighborhood in Astoria, Queens Community District 1, and lies within the R5B and R6A zoning district. The applicant is seeking a city map amendment to eliminate a portion of 32nd Street between 21st Avenue and Ditmar Boulevard. This action would secure the continued use of the outdoor play area for Astoria Lutheran School and Grace Lutheran Church, which are located on the applicant's property, and no new development is being proposed as part of this application. The applicant's property has been a long-standing institutional presence in the community. The church building was constructed in 1931 for Grace Lutheran, which has continuously operated at this location ever since. In 1973, two-story school building was added for Grace Lutheran School, and in 2012, it merged with Queens Lutheran School to become the current Astoria Lutheran School. Today, the school serves about 120 students from 3K to 8th grade and relies heavily on the adjacent outdoor space, which include paved areas, play structures, and picnic tables for student recreation and daily activities. The applicant's property includes tax lot 61 and 161, which is shown in the dotted blue line, and it contains a one-story church and an attached two-story school building on lot 61. The property totals about 19,600 square feet, with about 18,700 square feet of built floor area. The portion of 32nd Street proposed for demapping spans lot 61, 161, and a 5-foot strip of lot 25, which is shown with the solid orange line. Adjacent to the buildings is the school's play yard, which spans lot 61 and 161, and it includes play equipment, paved areas, and picnic tables. The 40-foot wide segment of 32nd Street, mapped in 1912 but never built, runs through this play yard across Lot 61, 161, and a 5-foot strip of Lot 25. This segment functions as an active school play area, not a public street. And to give more context, the applicant property is part of a larger zoning lot that include Lot 61, 161, 25, and the former Lot 18. Most of the development rights from the zoning lot have been transferred to former Lot 18 and Lot 25. The former Lot 18 is now developed with a 6-story mixed-use residential and commercial building, while Lot 25 is currently under construction with a new 7-story mixed-use building containing retail and residential space. I will now talk more about the surrounding area. The area within 600 feet of the applicant's property is primarily residential, with a mix of 3-story townhouses and 4 to 6-story apartment buildings, along with some 1-story commercial uses concentrated along 31st Street. A C1J commercial overlay is mapped along 31st Street, a major corridor that also carries the elevated N and W subway lines. Ditmars Boulevard is another key street providing access to Grand Central Parkway. Transit access in the area also includes the Astoria Ditmars Boulevard subway station at 31st Street and 23rd Avenue, and multiple MTA bus lines, including the Q100, Q69, Q101, Q60, and Q19, offering connections to Rikers Island, Long Island City, East Midtown, and Flushing. I will now share several site photos taken around the project area. This is view of the proposed street to be mapped facing northeast from 32nd Street. This is view of 32nd Street facing southwest. This is view of 21st Avenue facing northwest, and the applicant's property is on the left with the orange dash line. This is a view of the applicant's property and proposed street to be mapped facing southwest from the intersection of 21st Avenue and 32nd Street. And lastly, this is the view of the proposed street to be mapped facing southwest from 21st Avenue. The applicant seeks to eliminate a 100-foot long unbuilt segment of 32nd Street between the built end of the street and 21st Avenue. This portion of 32nd Street is a paper street, meaning it is mapped but never built or used as a street. Today, this area functions as the play yard for Grace Lutheran Church and Astoria Lutheran School, and the proposed change would ensure the continued use of this space for school and community activities. And no new development is proposed on the applicant's property. All development rights have already been transferred to adjacent lots. To summarize, Grace Evangelical Lutheran Church of Long Island City is seeking a city map amendment to eliminate a portion of 32nd Street that was mapped but never built. The city map change would preserve the yard as an active play and gathering space for Astoria Lutheran School and the church community. And no new development is proposed as part of this request. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Great. First of all, let me say great job. Congratulations and welcome. Let me start with Commissioner Cerullo.
Just a quick question, and it's really, I think, a clarification. And I realize that this portion of the street is not actively a through street now. But what happens at the end? Once this is, it doesn't look like it's at a corner where there's a right or a left turn capability, but I'm assuming that's what happens before you get to the end? Or how will, if a vehicle comes into that block, will it make U-turns? Like, what's the traffic flow scenario once it's officially demapped, eliminated from the map? And I could be missing something on this, but
I think the existing condition is the proposed condition as well. You can't get through today, and
right.
I'm assuming that cars U-turn, and that larger vehicles probably don't go down there. There isn't any uses that would require trucks or other vehicles that couldn't make a U-turn in the 60 feet.
So as part of this, well, then I would just say point, I think it would be helpful. It would be helpful at some point when this returns, and to understand there's an opportunity here to create a better scenario than whatever is happening right now just continues to happen. And I realized that's what I thought, but I didn't know if there was a plan to create, and maybe this is a DOT-related issue, I'm assuming, but some other situation on this block that makes more sense as perhaps trapping people in the block only to have to make their way around and back out again.
Understood. We'll take that back. Thank you.
Is there a sign at the front which says dead end
Yeah, that's my question.
today?
Today is a dead end.
Or is there a sign that says dead end?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Other questions? Okay, all right, thank you, we're certified. Congratulations again and welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, let's move on to the next item.
The sixth item on our agenda is a review of a general project plan, GPP, in Queens Community District 13. Presenting for the first time to the commission is Joe Giambri.
All right, welcome.
Hi, welcome, or hello. Hello, Commissioners. This afternoon, I'll be presenting the general project plan for the Creedmoor mixed-use project. The applicant for this project is Empire State Development, and the project consists of approximately 59-acre redevelopment of the 125-acre Creedmoor campus located at 7925 Winchester Boulevard in Queens Community District 13. This is a land use improvement project that is being sponsored pursuant to the New York State Urban Development Corporation Act, which requires CPC review and the opportunity to submit a comment letter. ESD is requesting a letter from the CPC ahead of their board meeting scheduled for mid-October to affirm the GPP and design guidelines. So some background on the Creedmoor campus. The property was sold to the state in 1890, and in 1912, a small farm colony opened as a satellite of Brooklyn State Hospital. Throughout the 1920s and 30s, Creedmoor expanded rapidly, and many of the buildings were built that we see on the campus today. By 1959, Creedmoor State Hospital had reached its peak patient population with over 7,000 patients. This number would steadily decline over the coming decades as the city began to deinstitutionalize its facilities. In the latter half of the 20th century, and as the need for the campus declined, several tracts of land were conveyed by the state and redeveloped into schools, housing, and for other institutions. Today, 20 out of 25 buildings on the campus are currently vacant. However, portions are still active. The New York State Office for People with Developmental Disabilities and the Living Museum are two institutions that are just outside the GPP area. Most of the existing buildings on this site have been identified as a historic resource eligible for listing on both the state and national registers of historic places. Given that the implementation of the GPP would require clearance of most of these buildings, ESD has consulted with the New York State Historic Preservation Office, and this process will continue after the adoption of the GPP with the opportunity for public comment. The project site shown here is located in Belrose, situated between Union Turnpike and Hillside Avenue, just south of the Grand Central and Cross Island Parkway intersection. The project property, along with the roadway within the campus, are all owned and managed by New York State. Public access to the campus is currently restricted. Bus stops are located just to the north and south of the campus that provide access to the Q48, Q46, and Q43 buses. There are several surrounding schools nearby, including Martin Van Buren High School and PS 18, as well as the Queens High School of Teaching and the PSIS 266 and 208 complex, which used to be part of the historic campus. Nearby parks include Alley Pond Park to the north, as well as Detective William Gunn Playground and the Pettivin Preller Fields to the south. Portions of the project area are still actively used by institutions today, including the New York State Office of Mental Health and Office for People with Developmental Disabilities, who use some of the Creedmoor buildings as storage, the New York State Department of Sanitation, who have a salt shed at the northern portion of the site, and the Services Now for Adult Persons, or SNAP, who provide a range of community services. They have identified a new site outside of the campus to move to. So this project was kickstarted by Governor Hochul's Executive Order 30, which directs state agencies to prioritize the creation of housing on underutilized state-owned land. ESD and the Queensborough president have identified the Creedmoor campus as an opportunity to meet the need for affordable and supportive housing in the neighborhood. A community-driven master plan was developed through extensive community engagement that solidified a vision and guiding principles based on needs. The GPP and draft design guidelines were published a year later, along with the draft environmental impact statement. The DEIS identified adverse impacts to community facilities, historic and cultural resources, transportation, as well as traffic and construction noise. ESD will select developers through a competitive RFP process to develop the site in phases over a 13-year period starting in 2027. The Creedmoor Community Master Plan was developed with extensive community engagement consisting of a series of workshops, 14 meetings with community groups and elected officials, as well as dozens of stakeholder conversations. Key takeaways from the engagement show a desire for the Creedmoor site to become a vibrant and inclusive community with affordable housing, safe gathering spaces, and local amenities like parks and cultural centers. Key priorities included preserving the neighborhood's character, improving walkability and bike access, and ensuring the development supports families, seniors, and veterans. So getting into the project proposal, currently the majority of the project site is located within an R32 zoning district with a small portion to the north, zone C81. The implementation of the project requires an override of the New York City zoning resolution, and in place of zoning, design guidelines will outline the site organization, project program, building bulk, design controls, as well as open space design. City planning has worked closely with ESD to refine these guidelines and to help shape the overall project. The proposal itself consists of approximately 2.1 million gross square feet of mixed-use space, including residential, open space, neighborhood retail, community facilities, educational uses, and parking. The project includes 2,022 homes with both affordable rental units and homeownership units. The affordable rental units will include a mix of 412 units dedicated for senior housing, 278 units for supportive housing, and 288 units without senior or supportive stipulations. Of the 278 supportive units, 78 are reserved for veterans, and the remaining 200 for people with serious mental illness. There are 1,045 homeownership units, which include a mix of semi-detached homes, triplexes, and units in multifamily buildings. All homeownership units in the first phase will be affordable, with later phases to be determined when future RFPs are released in coordination with state and city housing agencies. The project will create 10.3 acres of open space, of which 4.4 acres will be publicly accessible. To serve the needs of existing and new residents, the project will include 67,000 gross square feet of neighborhood retail and community facility space with a 16,500 gross square feet older adult center and an 8,100 gross square feet early childhood center. A block for a future school has also been identified in order for the School Construction Authority to develop. It has 120,000 gross square foot baseline with flexibility to develop based on funding and school capacity needs. Construction of the project will be undertaken in 6 phases starting in 2027. The first 5 phases, A through E, consist of the mixed-use development that will be built in compliance with the design guidelines. Phase F, which was previously located at the northern portion of the site, was recently removed from the project after negotiations between local elected officials with the state to address concerns from the local community board that opposed the level of density set for the project. This change resulted in a reduction of 753 housing units. In addition, the percentage of supportive housing in the project was cut from 35% to 20%, along with an expansion of the veterans' affordability preference. Phase G will only include street reconstruction of existing streets and is not subject to the design guidelines. The project will create an interior street network as well as perimeter connections to integrate the project site with adjacent neighborhoods. The new street network will be mapped in the future as city streets. There are 5 vehicular access points on Hillside Avenue to the south, 2 along Winchester Boulevard to the west, and 1 along 240th Street to the east. There are also 2 pedestrian-only gated access points to the east. Avenue C is the major north-south spine of the project and has active ground floors. It has strong retail presence and community facility frontage. On the south, Hillside Ave will also have strong retail frontage as well. The overall massing strategy is to develop mid-rise density in the core of the project area with a scaling down of height and density to the perimeter to adjacent low-rise residential neighborhoods. There is a maximum building height of 30 feet for buildings along the east of the site in Phase E, and a maximum building height of 60 feet along Hillside Avenue in Phase A. In the core, there are wraparound courtyard-shaped buildings that cover parking garages and allow for upper floor private rooftop terraces. These buildings have articulation requirements that require one vertical or one horizontal break along Avenue C or the town center. In addition, the design guidelines outline ground floor transparency requirements for retail frontage at 65% and 50% for community facility frontage. The project includes a mix of housing densities with semi-detached and triplex homeownership units to the east of the site and multifamily ownership and affordable rental buildings distributed across the site in the mid-rise buildings. Supportive rental units are distributed evenly across the site in the affordable rental buildings. Ground floor retail space is densest along Avenue C and Hillside Ave, and community facility space is distributed across the site through different phases. There are 2,482 parking spaces distributed among garages, lots, driveways, and on-street parking. There is one standalone parking garage located in the southwest corner of the site and 2 surface parking lots in lower density areas. The design guidelines will require the structured parking garages to be screened at least 50% and parking lots to be screened by perimeter landscaping. 40% of the total spaces in the garages and lots will have EV charging. Both on-street and off-street bicycle parking will be provided, and the site is currently served by a Q43 bus on Hillside Ave, but ESD is coordinating with the MTA about the potential for a bus or shuttle access in the interior of the site. The project's 10.3 acres of public and private open space includes a mix of passive and active spaces. These include green spaces, plazas, pathways, and landscaped areas between buildings that are designed to be accessible, inclusive, and promote physical and social wellness. It also includes active spaces such as playgrounds, community gardens, and sports courts. The town center will serve as a centralized main green, accessible with walking and biking. It includes a communal plaza, green space, furnishings, and the opportunity for art and sculpture. The design guidelines detail requirements across all open spaces in the project, including requirements for seating, paving types, furnishing, and planting. In terms of sustainability, a minimum of 10% of the total planted area in publicly accessible open space will be bioswales or rain gardens. In addition, a tree preservation plan will be developed to prioritize the existing healthy trees to try to keep them as much as possible. So in summary, DCP is continuing to work closely with ESD to refine the design guidelines for the project. Several of our comments have been incorporated so far, including developing street frontages based on our street regulations in the ZR, ensuring parking spaces are covered and garages are enclosed, recommending that community facility uses are developed throughout the different phases, and maintaining view corridors throughout the site. We support this project to prioritize housing development on underutilized state-owned land, driven by extensive community engagement and stakeholder input. We also believe the plan and its design guidelines reflect an application of sound urban design principles and considerations that will benefit current and future residents in the neighborhood. ESD is requesting a letter from the CPC ahead of their board meeting scheduled for mid-October to affirm the GPP and its prescribed design guidelines. A draft letter incorporating comments from the Commission will be submitted at a time for the next review session. Thank you. This concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Great. Congrats. That's quite a first one, a biggie. Okay, so we're going to discuss this again at our review session on the 6th of October, but let's start with questions now. Commissioner Osorio.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks so much for the presentation. That was very thorough. I appreciate that. I wanted to flag 2 things that come to mind. I'm wondering if the CPC considers that there's room in that letter to emphasize the need for clarity on what are the energy standards that these buildings should be designed for, where I want to emphasize not just the energy efficiency aspect of the standards, but also specifically how much renewable energy can we generate here and how close we can get to net zero. That will be the first question. And then the second question, I'm wondering if the amount of permeability that is being proposed is enough. And so, I appreciate the commitment to kind of like that 10%, 10 to 15%, but I'm wondering if that could be better. In general, it sounds too impervious to me.
Yeah, thank you for both questions. To address the first question, the project will have 100% electric, no gas lines in the development. ESD is continuing to explore like geothermal and solar opportunities as well. They've assured us, so be sure to connect with them again to confirm that. And for permeability, there's also a planting requirement for the rooftop terraces to help absorb some of the rainwater, but yes, we'll also look into ways to increase sustainability throughout the project.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And, given that at the end, this is a letter from us, I'm just thinking ahead in terms of, how much can we perhaps incorporate there in clarifying or recommending that level of detail. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Benjamin.
Just one quick question. I noted that we are proposing that ESD can make certain modifications to this plan without coming back to us. What level of modification do we think we're allowing them to make?
Yeah, thank you for the question. They've come back with recent changes like phase F being removed as well. But the design guidelines are pretty detailed and indicate everything I presented. So I think we have room to also, comment on those design guidelines and help shape them further.
And if after we send the letter, they make modifications?
They're currently making modifications to some of them, but they've been pretty well developed. They were released a year ago.
So they can make modifications as long as the modifications after the letter, which gives them the authority to proceed, they can make modifications, but you would think as long as it is in keeping with the guidelines. Is that fair to say?
They've also able to make modifications as future phases come out to learn from phase A to adapt phase B. So I think any comments in the letter would be very helpful for them. Yeah.
Good try. Hi, Commissioner Benjamin. There's also an environmental study that goes with this project, so any modification that would be beyond scope of what they study would obviously require kind of, a touch base. But I think what you said is as long as the modification is sort of in the spirit of the number of units and, the guidelines that we have presented.
Right, but I'm concerned, what if they decided not to have home ownership and it was 100% rental? Would that come back, do you think?
I think we can ask them.
Let's find, there's a legal question here. Yeah. Why don't we just come back with a response on that, and we're going to pick this up again. So let's make sure that when we do, we're able to answer that. Sorry, Commissioner Benjamin, but I think that's a worthy follow-up. Yeah.
As opposed to my other questions?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
oh yeah, as opposed to everything else. No. That one is.
Okay.
All of them are worthy, and we will follow up. Did you have other questions?
No.
Okay. All right. Okay. Commissioner Gold.
How far they can adapt.
Yeah, that's right. That's the core question, which is what can they do after? What's the follow up? What's the power of ESD in a project like this? So, okay, we will follow up on that one. Commissioner Gold.
Thanks. Just we talk about this being staged from 2027. It looks like to 2040. Two questions. One, presumably, are they able to open stages along the way, or does everything open in 2040, number one? And number two, is that still development in 2040, or are we done in 2040?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So the phases would open phase A first, construction starting in 2027, so whenever that construction is complete, along with the open space, community facilities, retail associated with that phase. So it would be subsequent phases opening when they finish.
Got it. And so do we think everything's completed in 2040, or or is that still, sort of construction start time?
So that's our estimate now, but we'll get back to you on that too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Mann?
Just a couple quick questions on the kind of the overall planning strategy. I was looking through the sort of visioning work that went into the master plan, and there's some city elements to this project, obviously. The DOT streets surrounding it, the Alley Pond Park across the street, some of the school considerations, utilities, et cetera. Do you know if there's been any progress on things like the sort of neighborhood amenities that normally the city of New York would need to deliver, like a public school as part of this project? And apologies if I missed this in the presentation.
Yeah, so the public school site is identified with the 120,000 square foot baseline roughly, and they'll work with the SCA to design and build that site based on needs and funding.
Got it.
So that was included in the original part of the project as one of the later phases, but it's now kind of given to SCA.
Great.
Yeah.
Sorry for the repetition there. And then on the streetscape and one of the challenges of this part of town is that there's a lot of significant roadways splitting up Creedmoor. Do you know if DOT has participated in thinking about, softening access or, sort of making it easier for people to get in and out of the Creedmoor campus so it's less auto-dependent?
Yeah, ESD has been in conversations with DOT about potentially reconfiguring certain intersections. Back when Phase F was in the project, there was a consideration for Union Turnpike to have an at-grade sort of light configuration, which I don't believe is part of the project given the removal of Phase F now, but they have been in talks with DOT.
Okay, great. And is that in the design guidelines or is that outside the design guidelines because it's not within the Creedmoor property?
The streets within the property are subject to the design guidelines, but then I believe external streets are subject to DOT, right. But I can confirm that too.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Okay, we'll pick this one back up on October 6th. Thank you for that. Great job. Okay, let's move on to item 7.
The 7th item on our agenda is a non-ULURP referral review of a zoning text amendment and a modification of a previously approved zoning certification in Manhattan Community District 5, and our presenter is Trevor Lovitz.
Hello, Trevor.
Hello, good afternoon, Commissioners. This is a private application at 1325 Avenue of the Americas, located in Midtown Manhattan, Community District 5. The applicant, La Grande Boucherie, LLC, is requesting a zoning text amendment and a modification to the original CPC certification to facilitate 3 open-air cafes within the through-block Galleria at 1325 Avenue of the Americas. 1325 Avenue of the Americas is located between 6th and 7th Avenues and West 53rd and 54th Streets on Manhattan Block 1006, Lot 13. The project site contains a privately owned public space, or POPs, designated through-block Galleria, which is the subject of this application. The applicant seeks a text amendment to Section 81231B of the zoning resolution and a modification to the original CPC certification. The proposed actions would permit open-air cafes within through-block Gallerias, permit minor design upgrades within the through-block Galleria at 1325 Avenue of the Americas, and facilitate open-air cafe use adjacent to and accessory to La Grande Boucherie and Kaiseki rooms located on the ground floor of the through-block Galleria. The project site is located partially within a 666 and partially within a 6.5 commercial district and is entirely within the theater sub-district of the Special Midtown District. The surrounding area's built form is characterized by commercial office buildings, many of which exceed 400 feet in height. The surrounding area has a high concentration of POPs with dozens within close proximity. This project site contributes to a series of through-block Gallerias and arcades authorized under the POPs program, which form a mid-block pedestrian path informally known as 6.5 Avenue. The surrounding area is well served by public transportation with the BD, FM, and QR and E subway lines within close proximity. Here's a closer look at the project site facing northeast. The project site is bounded by 6th Avenue to the east, West 53rd Street to the north, and West 53rd Street to the south and West 54th Street to the north. In 1990, the project site was developed with a 35-story, approximately 640,000 square foot commercial building. This building utilized 40,688 square feet of bonus floor area generated by 6,781 square feet of public through-block Galleria pursuant to ZR 81748 as approved by the City Planning Commission in 1987. Here's another view of the project site looking north from West 53rd Street. And this is a view of the through-block Galleria itself looking north. And here's the same through-block Galleria looking south from West 54th Street. So I'm going to try to run through this since there have been multiple approvals and modifications for this through-block Galleria. As I mentioned earlier, in 1987, the CPC approved the initial certification, facilitating the development of an approximately 640,000 square foot commercial building. The building was to utilize roughly 40,000 square feet of bonus floor area generated by the 6,700 square feet of public galleria space. In 1988, the CPC approved a modification for minor changes to the amount of floor area in the building from 633,000 feet approximately to roughly 640,000 square feet. And in 1990, the CPC approved a second modification permitting the reconfiguration of galleria space with the use of roughly 1,200 square feet of previously bonusable galleria space for retail use, and to convert the same 1,200 square feet of previously non-bonusable space into bonusable space for public use. Then, on December 1st, 2020, the CPC chairperson approved a certification eliminating 183.5 square feet of non-bonused through-block galleria. And finally, I should note that during the COVID-19 pandemic, the applicant operated an outdoor cafe pursuant to a mayoral emergency executive order, which temporarily suspended some zoning restrictions for POPs and permitted cafes as of right. However, this emergency executive order lapsed on July 1st, 2021. The applicant is requesting approval of two actions as part of this application, which I will now walk through. Zoning regulations for through-block gallerias currently only permit eating and drinking service to be provided adjacent to but not within gallerias, and all seating must be public. As a result, through-block gallerias, such as 1325 Avenue of the Americas, are not able to operate open-air cafes. The applicant is requesting an amendment to ZR 81231B to allow kiosks and open-air cafes within through-block gallerias. The proposed zoning text can be seen here, underscored. The amended text, underlined, states that kiosks and open-air cafes may be placed within an existing publicly accessible open area or through-block galleria for which a floor area bonus has been received by certification, pursuant to Section 3773, or kiosks and open-air cafes. And as far as the regulations for this itself, the proposed text is as follows. However, for through-block gallerias, the provisions for open-air cafes shall be modified as follows. Such cafes need not be open to the sky, and movable planters or barriers that separate such cafes from the remainder of the through-block gallerias are allowed, provided that such planters or barriers do not exceed a height of 3 feet or depth of 12 inches. The planters or barriers shall not be removed from the through-block galleria when the open-air cafe is not in active use. Shall be removed, forgive me. In terms of applicability, there are a total of 3 through-block gallerias that would be affected by the proposed text amendment. In addition to the project site, they include 1285 Avenue of the Americas and 135 West 52nd Street. All 3 through-block galleries were constructed pursuant to ZR 81748, and the bonus no longer exists in today's zoning resolution, and as such, the universe of affected sites is finite. Real quickly, 1285 Avenue of the Americas is one of the 2 additional sites affected by the proposed zoning text. It was approved by the CPC in 1986. It is an approximately 9,000 square foot through-block galleria. Secondly, 135 West 52nd Street was approved by the CPC in 1984. It is roughly 6,400 square feet, and in 2016, the CPC approved design modifications. Continuing on with the requested actions, as there are design upgrades under the proposed development, the application seeks a third City Planning Commission modification to the original certification dated October 5th, 1987. The modification to the original certification includes improvements to the existing through-block galleria, including replacement of decorative pavers and upgraded lighting, new decorative entry paneling at both entrances, new movable planters, new trash receptacles, and the replacement of publicly accessible benches and movable tables and chairs. In conclusion, this is a private application at 1325 Avenue of the Americas, located in Midtown Manhattan, Community District 5. The applicant, La Grande Boucherie LLC, is requesting a zoning text amendment and a modification to the original CPC certification. The proposed actions would permit open-air cafes within through-block gallerias, permit minor design upgrades within the through-block gallery at 1325 Avenue of the Americas, and facilitate open-air cafe use adjacent to and accessory to La Grande Boucherie and Kaiseki Room restaurants located on the ground floor of the through-block galleria. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to refer this one out to the community board and the borough president, and we'll pick it back up on the other side. Thanks, Trevor.
The eighth item on our agenda is a non-ULURP post-referral review of a zoning authorization in Brooklyn Community District 1. Our presenter is Emily Bachman.
Hi, Emily.
Good afternoon, Chair Grodnick, Commissioners. Okay, this is a post-referral review for 242 Siegel Street, bulk authorization, a private application in the East Williamsburg neighborhood of Brooklyn, Community District 1, that was referred to Community Board 1 on August 13th. This is a private application from 215 NYM Moore LLC for a zoning authorization to facilitate a new 6-story, 215,000 square foot film production facility, including 6 sound stages that would support 3 simultaneous productions and between 900 and 1,200 jobs. It's located in East Williamsburg, Brooklyn, Community District 1. The project area is well served by transit and is located within the inner transit zone with 2 nearby L train stations, providing a 10-minute trip to Lower Manhattan and a 20-minute trip to Broadway Junction. In addition to the L train, the project area is served by 3 buses, the B60 with service between Canarsie and Williamsbridge Plaza, the B57 with service between Maspeth and Red Hook, and the B43 with service between Greenpoint and Flatbush. The development site is a 135,400 square foot lot with about 700 feet of frontage on Siegel Street to the north, 650 feet of frontage on Moore Street to the south, and 200 feet of frontage on White Street to the east, all of which are narrow one-way streets with a width of 60 feet. The development site is vacant except for a 1-story building in the northwest corner, which would remain as part of the proposed development. Justice Gilbert Ramirez Park and the Morgan Avenue L train station are 1 block to the northeast. Building heights in the surrounding area range from 40 feet for single-story warehouses and 2-story homes to 75 feet for historic loft-style buildings and up to 200 feet for some NYCHA buildings immediately west of Bushwick Avenue. The project area is outside of the Brooklyn Industrial Business Zone, or IBZ, which is shown here in purple. And in the land use framework established by the department in 2018's North Brooklyn Industry and Innovation Plan, the project area is in a growth district where growth of creative and tech-driven jobs in office-based and industrial sectors near transit are encouraged. 74 Bogart Street is 2 blocks to the northeast, where the CPC recently approved and the City Council is currently reviewing a private application for a zoning map amendment from an M1-2 to an M1-4A zoning district to facilitate a new 7-story, 240,000 square foot art storage development. The surrounding area features a mix of uses with industrial uses including warehousing and distribution and open storage. Surface parking is also prevalent in the surrounding area. Commercial uses include restaurants, event spaces, and hotels. Residential uses include 2-story attached townhouses fronting on private courts to the north and west, legal non-conforming 4-story loft conversions to the southeast, and 3 tower in the park style NYCHA developments ranging from 7 to 20 stories tall to the west. Community facility uses include numerous schools and churches, as well as the Bushwick branch of the Brooklyn Public Library across Bushwick Avenue to the west. The development site is subject to 2 different zoning districts, M11 to the west and M12 to the east. The M11 zoning district permits a floor area ratio, or FAR, of 1 for a variety of manufacturing and commercial uses, and 2.4 FAR for community facility uses, and the maximum base height is 30 feet. The M12 district permits 2.0 FAR for a variety of commercial and manufacturing uses, 4.8 FAR for community facility uses, and the maximum base height is 60 feet. Above those differing maximum base heights, both districts require a 20-foot setback on narrow streets, above which maximum height is governed by sky exposure planes. The surrounding area also features an R6 zoning district, a medium-density, non-contextual residential district which allows a maximum FAR of 3.9, a maximum base height of 65 feet, and a maximum height of 85 feet for qualifying affordable housing fronting on narrow streets, which require a 15-foot setback, as well as rear yards with a depth between 20 and 30 feet. Looking south on White Street with the development site on the right, the lot on the left is primarily used as open storage for a construction company. To the south, single-story warehouses and open parking are interspersed with historic lofts, which include a mix of residential, commercial, and light industrial uses. And 2 blocks to the south, the Williamsburg Charter High School is located in an 8-story building constructed in 2001. Looking west on Moore Street with the development site on the right, you can see 1 to 3-story industrial buildings on the left, which are primarily utilized for food distribution and production. Straight ahead across Bushwick Avenue to the east are NYCHA, Bushwick, and Highland houses. Now looking east on Siegel Street with the development site on the right, you can see the corner of a church on the left, and, as well as 2-story attached townhomes fronting on Siegel Court, a private through-block street. Justice Gilbert Ramirez Park and the Morgan Avenue L train station are 1 block straight ahead. And now looking west on Siegel Street with the development site on the left, this is the only portion of the development site that is not currently vacant, where the existing building would remain and be repurposed as a mill as part of the proposed development. On the right, you can see 2-story attached townhomes fronting on McKibben Court, another through-block private street. Farther down Siegel Street is PS 147 on the right, and straight ahead across Bushwick Avenue are NYCHA Highland houses. The proposed development is a new 6-story, 215,000 square foot, 1.5 FAR film production facility that aims to fill the demand for state-of-the-art, purpose-built production facilities in New York City. The proposed development would include 6 sound stages, averaging 17,300 square feet each, 3 mills totaling 19,000 square feet, ancillary support spaces totaling 40,500 square feet that include dressing rooms, hair and makeup, wardrobe, set decoration, prop storage, and lunchrooms. Production offices and writers' suites totaling 50,000 square feet would be located on the top 2 floors. 5 required loading berths would be located on the ground floor, and 230 required parking spaces would be located below grade. The ground floor would include 6 sound stages, as well as mills, ancillary support spaces, loading docks, and interior corridors, allowing operations of 3 simultaneous productions to be entirely contained within the building envelope. Numerous existing curb cuts surrounding the development site would be removed and replaced by 2 curb cuts located approximately 170 feet west of White Street. That includes a 30-foot wide curb cut on Siegel Street, providing access to below-grade parking, and a 60-foot wide curb cut on Moore Street, providing access to the loading berths. Each soundstage would have an industry-standard minimum depth of 85 feet and a column-free clear height of 40 feet, allowing for flexible and efficient set design. To facilitate the proposed development, the applicant seeks a zoning authorization for bulk modifications. This discretionary action was established as part of City of Yes for Economic Opportunity last year, with the aim of simplifying pathways for businesses like the production facility proposed to achieve the building envelopes they need to grow and thrive in New York. The authorization sought would not change permitted uses, floor area, or parking regulations of the underlying zoning districts, but it would allow the proposed development to comply with the more loft-like bulk regulations of C7 districts. This authorization is exclusive to non-residential uses and only allows for the utilization of the C7 district regulations that most closely match the maximum FAR of the underlying M zones. In this instance, C7-1 bulk regulations would be applied to the portion of the lot zoned to M11, and C7-2 bulk regulations would be applied to the portion of the lot zoned to M12. In the next few slides, I'll outline the bulk regulations that would be made possible, or the bulk modifications that would be made possible by the proposed authorization. The as-of-right envelope is outlined in black. The proposed envelope is a blue dashed line the portions of the proposed bulk envelope that extend beyond the as-of-right envelope are shaded in blue, and the proposed development is shaded in gray. First, the authorization would eliminate a requirement for a 20-foot rear yard equivalent along the side lot line highlighted here in blue, allowing the building to be built to the lot line adjacent to an existing 4-story building. The applicant states that this modification will allow for a consistent street wall along Moore Street and a more efficient layout with a mill located partially within this area, allowing for on-site set assembly. In the M11 portion of the development site, the bulk authorization would increase the maximum base height from 30 feet to 45 feet, would reduce the required setback above that base from 20 feet to 15 feet, and would change the way maximum height is measured from a sky exposure plane with a 1-to-1 slope to a maximum height of 81 feet. This would allow all sound stages to achieve those 40-foot high clear heights. In the M12 portion of the development site, the bulk authorization would increase the maximum base height from 60 feet to 65 feet, would reduce the required setback above that base from 20 feet to 15 feet, and would change the way maximum height is measured from a sky exposure plane with a 2.7-to-1 slope to a maximum height of 118 feet. This would allow ancillary support and office spaces to be located above the sound stages. Taken together, the authorization would result in the elimination of a yard requirement along the side lot line, an increase in maximum base height between 5 and 15 feet, a decrease in setback above that base by 5 feet, and a change in the way maximum height is calculated, allowing for a more loft-like building envelope with maximum heights established at 81 and 118 feet. Using these bulk modifications, each soundstage would be able to have an industry standard minimum depth of 85 feet and a clear height of 40 feet. The modifications would also allow an internal loading corridor, allowing for movement of people, props, and set materials to take place within the building. The authorization requires the Commission to find that the bulk modifications will not be incompatible with or adversely affect the essential character, use, or future growth of the surrounding area, that they will not unduly obstruct access to light and air to surrounding streets and properties, and the Commission may prescribe appropriate conditions and safeguards to minimize adverse effects on the character of the surrounding area. The applicant states that the proposed modifications are consistent with neighborhood character, which features numerous loft-style industrial buildings, and that the authorization will aid in the use and future growth of the surrounding area by developing an underutilized site with a use that is synergistic with local businesses. The surrounding area includes many light industrial, commercial, and creative arts-oriented uses that could work directly with the production studio, as well as restaurants, bars, cafes, and grocery stores that could serve employees of the facility. Additionally, the applicant states that the proposed bulk modifications represent minimal changes and do not meaningfully impact access to light and air for surrounding streets and properties, and that an as-of-right development could result in a taller maximum height. In further response to the findings, the technical drawings included in this application include notes on urban design controls to ensure adequate facade articulation that will break up the long street walls and create a dynamic pedestrian experience. On September 9th, 2025, Brooklyn Community Board 1 voted 37 in favor with none opposed and none abstaining to approve this application. And in summary, it was a private application from 215 NYM Moore, LLC, for a zoning authorization to facilitate a new 215,000 square foot production facility, including 6 sound stages and associated support spaces aimed at filling the demand for state-of-the-art purpose-built production facilities in New York City, while providing between 900 and 1,200 jobs. Located in East Williamsburg, Brooklyn Community District 1. That concludes my presentation. Happy to take questions.
Great. As always, thank you, Emily. I will just say how excited and proud I am of this, to see the tools that we have created being put into use so soon. I'm excited about it. Mr. Vice Chairman, I'm going to you.
Thank you for that presentation. Very good. Two questions. Just remind me again of what takes place in the mill space.
Mm-hmm. The mills this is a common part of a production facility. It's carpentry. They're making sets that make it look like they're shooting on location when they're not. So oftentimes it's like the inside of an apartment in New York City, but it's actually just in a box.
I see.
Yeah.
Secondly, is there an anchor tenant for the space at this point, or?
The developer and applicant they're developing it to operate it. The tenants would be productions.
Right.
So it could be a TV show that shoots a season or many seasons. It could be a movie that shoots in a matter of months. The idea with this facility is 3 simultaneous productions. So it could be a variety of tenants depending on what the market is producing.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Osorio?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. 2 quick questions. One, is there a plan, and correct me if I'm wrong, but is there a plan to relocate some of the businesses located within the immediate kind of project site? I appreciate the comments and the sort of like provisions to verify or anticipate the synergy that this could bring with the surrounding industrial businesses, but I'm wondering if you have any additional information on the plan for, those businesses, the ones that are within.
Okay. I can get you details. I don't have them today. There were uses on the site prior to today that have been demolished in preparation for this development. The applicant has information about each of those former tenants, and in one case, they actually negotiated a property swap where they purchased the property that business was located on, and that person was able to relocate on the block. So I'll get you details for the next.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yep.
And then the second question, I also appreciated some basic language regarding solar.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would like to know a little bit more in terms of what's possible. I mean, just by looking at the rendering and the characteristics of these flat rooftops, I see potential, like a lot of potential for solar, but also even, creative, innovative approaches to what a green roof could look here, even, potential agriculture. So there are precedents in other industrial areas where they've been used for that. So I'm wondering if there's anything that you can share with us of what's been discussed, or is that something that maybe we can follow up with the applicant on?
So they've stated that rooftop solar, which you can see in the rendering, which is illustrative, would cover most of the roof, and they anticipate that would provide 25% of the building's energy needs. There's also some green infrastructure and accessible to the users of the building open space on the roof. So yeah, I can get more details on.
Yeah, thank you. That would be great. And if you can also highlight specifically whether there's going to be any battery storage.
Okay, that has not been mentioned, but I'll ask.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Okay, we're going to schedule this one for a vote. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, let's move to 9.
The 9th item on our agenda is a pre-hearing review of a zoning text amendment in Brooklyn Community District 8. Our presenter is Jordan Fraud.
Hello, Jordan.
Hello.
Right. Good afternoon, Chair Garodnick and Commissioners. The department is here to give the pre-hearing presentation for the AMUP follow-up action, which was referred out to Community Board 8 and the Brooklyn Borough President on June 30th. As a brief refresher, AMUP is a neighborhood plan that was recently approved by the City Council at the end of May to support housing and job growth, especially affordable housing, while improving streets, parks, and other infrastructure. In total, AMUP is projected to create 4,600 new homes, including 1,900 income-restricted homes, and around 2,800 jobs, or 800,000 square feet of new space for jobs, accompanied by approximately $235 million in capital and programmatic investments. As part of the approved zoning map changes, the mid-blocks, which are outlined here in the dashed line, were mapped with a pairing of M12A and R6A zoning districts that covers roughly a 7-block area south of Atlantic Avenue between Grand and Franklin Avenues in Brooklyn Community District 8. In this geography, the zoning allows up to 3.9 FAR for residential uses, and in an effort to encourage mixed-use buildings and space for jobs, there's a 1.1 FAR incentive for all types of non-residential uses in mixed-use buildings, allowing for a total of up to 5 FAR. The proposed zoning text amendment would adjust the incentive for non-residential uses, such that 0.5 FAR of the 1.1 total incentive FAR would be limited to only light industrial and selected community facility and commercial uses. Due to the physical challenges with accommodating multiple uses on the ground floor of small sites, sites of less than 10,000 square feet are proposed to be exempt. To summarize the uses, community facilities would include libraries, museums, community centers, non-commercial art galleries, and nonprofit spaces. The commercial and industrial uses include a referenced set created under the City of Yes for Economic Opportunity text amendment, which covers repair, maintenance, arts-based, and light industrial uses. On August 14th, Brooklyn Community Board 8 held a public hearing and voted unanimously to approve the application with a condition to remove the 10,000 square foot minimum lot size. On August 20th, the Brooklyn Borough President held a public hearing and on September 12th, issued their recommendation to approve the application with a condition to remove the 10,000 square foot minimum lot size. Looking forward, the Borough President also recommended that DCP explore a new tax incentive program similar to the fresh tax incentives, but for industrial development located in mixed-use districts outside IBZs, and that DCP consider methods to formalize the Gowanus mix as a more legible zoning concept. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take questions. Okay, thank you very much. We'll have a public hearing on this one on Wednesday. We will. Thank you very much. All right, thanks. Great.
Okay, the 10th item on our agenda is a City Council modification scope determination for 515 7th Avenue. The City Council proposes to modify the special permits, and staff believe these modifications are within scope. Matthew Gutierrez is here to present.
Great, welcome.
All right. Today I'll provide a scope determination for City Council modifications pertaining to a private application for 515 7th Avenue, which is located in Manhattan Community District 5. In order to construct an 18 FAR commercial tower containing a covered pedestrian space, 515 7th Avenue Realty LP had requested 4 zoning actions, which the City Planning Commission voted to approve on July 16th of this year. These actions included a text amendment to the Special Garment Center District, as well as 3 special permits. 1 for a floor area bonus in exchange for a covered pedestrian space. The second was to increase maximum tower lot coverage, and the third was for a transient hotel use. As you may recall, the development site is located within the boundaries of the recently approved Midtown South Mixed Use Plan, or MSMX. And MSMX makes the proposed development's bulk possible as of right, meaning that the requested text amendment would no longer be necessary. And the same is true for the special permit to increase maximum tower lot coverage. Under the new MSMX framework, only 2 special permits would still be necessary to facilitate the proposed development. The first is for a floor area bonus in exchange for covered pedestrian space, and the second is for transient hotel use. However, it's important to note that now that MSMX has been adopted, the hotel special permit must be associated with ZR Section 74-152 as opposed to ZR Section 74-153. This is because the new underlying zoning, which is a paired MX district, must follow the commercial and not the manufacturing district rules for transient hotels. Following the adoption of MSMX, the applicant sent a letter to both City Council and the Department of City Planning to formally withdraw the text amendment and the special permit for an increase in maximum tower lot coverage. And this letter also explained that the hotel special permit ZR section number would need to be updated. As a result, City Council has proposed modifications to reflect these MX-related changes, removing the text amendment, special permit for the maximum tower lot coverage, and updating the hotel ZR number, as well as just updating generally the architectural drawings to reflect the new underlying conditions. I want to be clear that City Council's proposed modifications would not substantively change the proposed development. These are simply administrative updates to align the Commission's approvals with the zoning in effect at the time of the Council's action. So, as a result, the Department of City Planning has determined that these modifications are within scope.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any questions here? Okay, I'll seek assent by a voice vote to send a scope determination letter to the City Council. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Okay.
Great.
Thank you very much. The ayes have it. Madam Secretary, let's move to 11.
The 11th item on our agenda is a City Council modification scope determination for 1946 East 7th Street rezoning. The City Council proposes to modify the zoning text amendment to Appendix F, removing MIH Option 2, and to modify the zoning map amendment. Staff believe these modifications are within scope. Ina Gusenfeld is joining us remotely to present.
Okay, Ina.
Good afternoon, Chair Garodnick and Commissioners. Are you able to hear me?
We are.
Wonderful. I will be presenting a City Council modification for the 1946 East 7th Street rezoning application, which was certified into ULURP on March 3rd, 2025. The proposed development is by the applicant Ahi Ezer Expansion Fund, Inc. The project is located at 1946 East 7th Street in the Homecrest neighborhood of Community District 15. The CPC approved a zoning map to change a zoning map amendment to change the current zoning from R5 to R6A and R7A districts, mapping MIH options 1 and 2 through a text amendment. The City Council is now proposing modifications that would adjust the rezoning area boundary and MIH area. As a reminder, the proposed actions would yield a 35,786 square foot residential building consisting of 53 income-restricted senior apartments with 2,292 square feet of subfloor community facility space. Next slide, please. This slide shows a side-by-side comparison of the CPC approved rezoning area and the City Council modified rezoning area. As part of the City Council's proposed modifications, a portion of the CPC approved rezoning area, consisting primarily of the development site, will still be rezoned to R6A, while the rest of the project area on either side of East 7th Street will be removed and remain zoned R5. Since the development site would still be rezoned to R6A as proposed by the applicant, no change in units is expected to result from this modification. However, several buildings that were included in the CPC approved rezoning area will remain legally non-complying as they are substantially overbuilt under the current R5 zoning and SOPD sub-district regulations. Next slide, please. The second City Council modification is a zoning text amendment to change the MIH border and area to be coterminous with a modified rezoning area boundary and remove MIH option 2, mapping only option 1. In summary, the City Council is proposing modifications that would amend the project area boundary and update the MIH area and options. The department believes these modifications are in scope. This concludes my presentation, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the Commission? Okay. With that, I'll seek assent by a voice vote to send a scope determination letter to the Council. All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Opposed, nay? Okay. You guys have it. We will send the letter. Thank you, Ina.
Future votes for consideration on Wednesday, September 17th. I'll just note public comments and testimony and follow-up memos were provided, and staff prepared reports for Kingsbridge Armory redevelopment, BWJ PD relocation and plaza project, 5502 Flatlands Avenue rezoning, 58 Nixon Court rezoning 2, and on 464 Uffington Avenue rezoning. Lastly, for consideration on Wednesday is 878-88 Atlantic Avenue Fresh. Future votes for October 8th, 2025. And your weekend materials were briefing packages for 5 landmark designations in Manhattan Community Districts 4 and 5. The Barbie Building, Left Court Clothing Center, 29th Street Towers, Fashion Tower, and Furcraft Building. Okay. Next on the agenda is post-hearing follow-ups. We have the projects which had public hearings at the September 3rd public meeting. On Queens CD3 and Brooklyn CD5 Walk to Park site selections and acquisitions, the team will join us at the review session on October 6th to present. Next, we have 699-703 Lexington Avenue rezoning. Demetrius McLester is here to present.
All right, Demetrius, welcome.
Good afternoon, Dan, Commissioner.
Good afternoon.
This is a pre-vote department recommendation for the 699-703 Lexington Avenue rezoning application. The department recommends approval of the 699-703 Lexington Avenue application, an application for a zoning map amendment from an R6B district to an R6A district, and an MIH text amendment to facilitate a 6-story, 36,393 square foot community facility comprised of 85 transitional housing units in the Bedford-Stuyvesant neighborhood of Brooklyn Community District 3. The department notes that the proposed R6A zoning district is a contextual mid-rise residential district that has been mapped extensively throughout the neighborhood in both the Bedside North and Bedside South rezonings. The department also acknowledges that the proposed zoning would extend an existing R6A district and believes that the increase in height and FAR is appropriate for the immediate context and within a walkable, transit-accessible area. In addition, we are also supportive of the applicant's efforts to create much-needed transitional housing units and provide social services to vulnerable and at-risk populations, which fulfill an important local and citywide need. Thank you. Happy to answer any final questions.
Questions? Okay. Thanks, Demetrius.
Next, we have St. Raymond Avenue demapping. Chaim Simon is here to present.
Hello.
Hi, good afternoon, Commissioners. All right. Today I'm presenting the St. Raymond Avenue demapping project in the Bronx Community District 11. This project was certified on May 19th and is back for post-hearing. This is a demapping project to remove an unbuilt street mapped over an MTA subway yard and between several of the applicant's lots. The Commission's public hearing was held on September 3rd. The applicant is requesting the demapping and acquisition of a portion of St. Raymond Avenue. The Department of City Planning recommends approving this action for the following reasons. The action unencumbers land on mapped streets which have never been built and which have no plans to be built out. And the demapping will return city-owned land to productive use and facilitate a development that is appropriate for the area. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we have MTA 125th and Lexington rezoning. Trevor Levitz is here to present.
Welcome back, Trevor.
Glad to be back. Thank you. Hello. This project had its public hearing on Wednesday, September 3rd. A follow-up memorandum responding to a question raised by this commission was included in your briefing materials today. Department of City Planning staff supports the MTA's proposed rezoning and zoning text amendments to facilitate a new mixed-use development above the future terminus of the 2nd Avenue subway at East 125th Street and Lexington Avenue. This transit-oriented development will sit atop a generational investment in New York's subway system, will add substantial density to a vital but underbuilt corridor that forms the spine of East Harlem. With the new C611 district mapped, the proposed development will add around 680 units of much-needed housing, including about 170 units of affordable housing. Department staff wish to note that, if approved, this rezoning will mark the first time an R11 equivalent district will be mapped through a non-city initiated ULURP application. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, excellent. Thank you, Trevor.
Thanks, Trevor. Okay, next we have 1551 Broadway Midtown Signage Text Amendment and Special Permit. Audrey Walks is here to present.
All right. Welcome back.
This is a staff recommendation for 1551 Broadway signage text amendment and special permit. To recap the project, the applicant seeks a zoning text amendment to the special Midtown District Theater Subdistrict to create a new special permit, ZR 81734, that would modify sign and frontage regulations for zoning lots that measure 10,000 square feet or less. And second, the applicant intends to obtain the new special permit to allow signage on the development site that would otherwise not comply with underlying signage regulations. And approval of the actions would facilitate the construction of a 15,000 square foot wraparound LED sign and a 7,000 square foot as of right sign on the development site. DCP recommends approval of the application and all proposed actions. The proposed zoning text amendment to the Special Midtown District Theater Subdistrict Core would establish a new special permit pursuant to ZR 81734. That special permit would allow modifications to signage and street frontage regulations for zoning lots that measure 10,000 square feet or less. These changes reflect the goals of the Special Midtown District and sustain Times Square's distinctive entertainment-oriented character. The proposed actions allow for flexibility to accommodate advances in digital signage technology in a district that is historically and presently defined by large illuminated signs. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Audrey. Great. Madam Secretary, what else have we got?
Okay, I'll just note, lastly, at the next review session on October 6th, we will have a presentation on 1720 Atlantic Avenue rezoning for follow-up. And
wonderful. Okay, and with that, I think that concludes our agenda for today. Thank you all, commissioners. We will pick this back up for public hearing Wednesday at 10 a.m. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
The time is 3:28 p.m.
Seriously,